We're going to turn right now to Joe
Gotta
Krowski.
test the mic.
Hey, Joe, baby, there you are. Joe Krowski. Can you hear me, Joe? There is Joe Krowski, criminal defense attorney from Boston. Joe was outspoken that he thought Karen Reed was guilty. He thought the prosecution was doing its thing and that they would prevail in the end. Joe, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well. Yes, I can, sir. Well, what do you think here? The verdict is in.
Well, the verdict is in, and we have to respect the verdict. We have to respect the jurors. This isn't going to resolve it for a lot of people. Of course, this was a very divisive case. But as a lawyer, there was a trial tried ably by both sides, experienced attorneys, a hard-fought battle, and the jury has spoken. We have to respect jury verdicts. They have found her not guilty on 95% of the charges, and certainly the anchor charges, the most serious charges.
So what happens now? The civil trial, paint this out for me. You've seen this a million times. What happens next for Karen?
I think you've seen it in other high-profile cases. Some people have compared this to O.J. Simpson. I think Karen herself did that. The civil standard for the burden of persuasion is preponderance of the evidence. It's just more likely than not. So you heard people over and over and over telling the defense in the heat of the advice to ditch the conspiracy and just try it on reasonable doubt, reasonable doubt, reasonable doubt. Well, preponderance is a much lesser standard. It's just more likely than not. So I would imagine the family is still going to pursue the civil suit. I know that there were civil attorneys that were present at the courthouse for much of the trial. But again, that's not set in stone. I don't pretend to have any inside information on that.
All right, Joe, now that the jury has spoken, does any part of you have space, room to entertain the idea that maybe a fight occurred between some of these guys and John O'Keefe?
Well, again, I want to caution this because I really respect the jury system. So you're asking the question, so I'm going to answer it, but I'm not going to make excuses or sound like sour grapes. But no, I do not believe that an objective view of the evidence supports the conclusion that there was some sort of a fight. It just doesn't make sense with the timeline, with the unassailable data. Certainly there was some issues and, it was capitalized on by the defense. I think what really hurt the Commonwealth was Sortabello, the ME, jumped to a conclusion that the method of death was undetermined early on and never went and sought additional information related to the investigation to modify her report. It's a really tough prosecution and uphill battle when your own medical examiner has it undetermined on the death certificate. And certainly there's another story to be told here about the influence of the media, social media, the new media, the community, and all that took place. But I don't think today's the day to get into that because, today is their day. They won the day.
Do you think that Massachusetts has a problem? That people...
No.
You don't think so? I do.
ahead.
I'm picking it up all over the place. People are suspect. They're suspect of the way law enforcement is, and the judicial system in Massachusetts. I get that vibe, and maybe I'm not looking deep enough, but from what I feel and what I see, it seems like there's a problem.
So Massachusetts, and look, we get criticized for being one of the more liberal and progressive states in the country, which we are. We accept that. We've got the best universities, the best hospitals, the best public education system, probably in the world. I spend my time day in, day out in these court systems. And certainly I have gripes that other defense attorneys probably have nationwide about issues surrounding racial profiling, about issues surrounding police accountability. But we are probably ahead of the curve as it relates to that issue. We have a very robust Brady list now. When even if a officer is found to be not credible in a case on a motion hearing, his name gets put on a list and that gets turned over to defense counsel for all cases that officer touches or has any connection to. A lot of this was hyperbolized. Certainly the texts and some other things were highlighted, but the unique thing about this case is the federal involvement, which probably brought to light and put information out there that probably would not be part of any other case or prosecution.
The prosecution spent an enormous amount of money trying to convict Karen Reed, and they failed badly. And there was just too much inexplicable evidence that remains. People are always going to be left with the nighttime butt dials, with the dog bites across the arm, with the rehoming of the dog and the selling of the house, and the fact that Brian Albert never came out to his lawn. Don't tell me you slept through that. I don't care how drunk you were. Never came out. That Jen McCabe never went in to get him as the only guy who has an experience with first responder, skills. That Michael Proctor, that there was no taillight on the lawn until way after the fact. It seems that it was planted. The 42 minutes missing from the Sallyport garage tape where Michael Proctor was back behind. The fact that the tape was handed in reverse in the first place. The guy's camera across the street, the Ring camera, not available from the retired cop across. There's so much, Joe. It's just, I think in the end, there's no way you convict Karen Reed. There's no way.
Let me say this. I've been on before, and you always give me a chance to respond to those. And you raised, 8 to 10 points, and most of them, in all fairness, have been debunked. I mean, I could point a few of them out right now, but today's not the day for that. But talking about the public policy of spending that type of money on the prosecution, I think Mike Morrissey should be applauded for doing that, because he's a politician, and following through in this prosecution was not the politically expedient thing to do. He took a lot of criticism to do it, but he did it because he believed in the case, and the family, John O'Keefe's family, believed in the case. So he wasn't looking at the polls. He wasn't looking at what people were reporting in social media. He made a conscious decision to do it. And look, Hank Brennan stood up there and did 99% of the evidence and the witnesses against a well-financed team. And again, I don't want to sound like a poor sport, but I think even if you had Karen Reed on video backing into John O'Keefe, there were people on that jury that were never going to vote to convict her. I mean, one of the jury questions referred to her as Karen. It's Karen, not the defendant. A social media blogger reported that one of the persons on the jury winked or nodded at Mr. Reed yesterday. So there was a lot of that. And I was there yesterday. I saw that sea of pink, and they all have family members. There was an overwhelming pressure put on that jury to acquit. And again, you're having me on the show, so I don't want to sound like I'm taking anything away from the verdict. You have to respect the verdict, and it's a not guilty. But I think we should have some humility and integrity. And I think what Hank Brennan did, stepping into the fire and fighting that fight and working tirelessly in a case he believed in.
There's one member of the prosecution that won. There's one victorious member of the prosecution, and that is Adam Lally, who was the prosecutor the first time around, because he got a hung jury, and Hank Brennan lost across the board. You're going on vacation.
I am. I am.
Joe, I appreciate
much deserved one.
Joe, yeah, absolutely, and thank you very much for your time. We respect a different opinion here. That's the way we got to operate in America. There goes the great Krowski. Thanks, man.
Not a lot of respect in the
No,
chat.
they don't love him in the chat. The chat is not a place for the Bushman. The Bushman here can be a statesman, all right. And I like Joe. We have mutual friends. I understand Joe. He's dug in. Some people are going to say he's compromised. He represented Colin Albert in a DUI offense years ago and whatever else. And who knows what what his experiences are in life and where he comes from. But look, they lost, right?
Yeah.
I knew he was going to. Everything I said, and I wasn't even halfway through. I didn't even get to Higgins destroying his SIM card, on a military base. And there's a million other things. All right, so let's go to our... All right, Peter, I'm going to go to an absolute all-star. We gotta close this part of it here, going to our most valuable player. I'm going to say most valuable police officer, and that is my friend Peter Murphy, who I'm told you need to turn on your camera, Peter. I'm told you don't have your camera on, but we see his name right there, Peter Murphy. Murph, turn on your camera. We got to see your handsome face. Oh, he's with the ladies.
Hey, you know what? Getting into this Zoom was more difficult than doing 26 weeks in the police academy. I'm just saying, all right?
Who's that lovely looking girl you're with?
This is Rebecca. She is one of our superstars. And this is Whitey. He is a superstar from Canton. He was the lead vocalist at the town select board meeting. Called them all out. Told them they were all complicit.
Wow.
And Chris Albert actually accused him of assault and battery, and he's still on probation for another week or 10 days. And it was all framed. They had 4 witnesses.
I got to tell you, Peter Murphy always has his surprise. He's always got a cabal of great Cantonites all around him wherever he goes. Oh, my God. Peter, how are you feeling today? How's everybody? Are you all celebrating? Are you all feeling victorious?
We are celebrating, for sure.
It was one of the most emotional days I've had in my lifetime, standing there looking at 1,200 people, breathless, waiting for the verdict to come out. You saw it. I was live with you. You saw it. You saw it live.
Yeah, I got it. You got to put the camera on yourself when you talk to me, Peter. I love it because, you got
Okay, buddy. Hey, you know what I mean? I'm a little camera shy over the years, but here I am.
Oh, you are not camera shy. If there's one person that's not camera shy, it's the great Saj, Peter Murphy. Murph, you've been a warrior. What are we doing? We going out for drinks tonight?
Well, we have an after party going here. I got about 12 people in front of me at a friend's house in Canton, and we got a 50 caliber pointed at the parking lot where our cars are to make sure the McAlberts don't come by.
Defense perimeter setup.
And a matter of fact, we even went to the Animal Rescue League or the shelter and got a German Shepherd, and we named it Chloe, and Chloe's on a long leash.
He went to the. Tell me that's real. I mean, I know you're kidding, but that is really funny.
I am kidding. Yep. But here's a quick view of the people that are here.
Oh, there we go.
These guys are solid people, Billy. They're boots on the ground. They have stood with me, and I have stood with them for 2.5 years in heat and cold, snow, sleet. The first trial, the second trial, hearings, incredible people.
Peter, I want to say something. One of the great, I've enjoyed being a part of this trial in a major way, covering it. We've been all over it from the beginning. I've seen an uprising here in people that is great. And I think justice was served today. I disagree with Mr. Krowski, who was on. I think justice was served today, and I think it's a step in the right direction for everyone. And when they say nobody hates a bad cop like a good cop, you, sir, are one of the great cops I've ever met in my life, and a new friend. So I just want to tell you, I love you, and I'm telling you, I promise you, when I come to town, I'm taking you out. We're gonna have the best time.
Billy, I can't tell you how much I enjoy. I've been on several different, platforms and blogs and content shows, and I've had more people call me with favorable reports saying, you and Billy just hit it off so well. You guys work so well together. How long have you been doing this? I said, first time. They said, you got to be kidding me. The chemistry between you two guys is amazing.
Well,
and
No, even if you
maybe we'll do Murph and the Bushman mornings on Kiss 108 if Maddie ever gets tired. Murph and the Bushman. All right.
he's gonna get enough.
all right, buddy. Listen, I don't know what to tell you other than this was the most exhilarating day, and I just very emotional. Couple of other cops, Sean on the Gulf. He and I have talked about this before a year and a half ago, and we both said the same thing. Neither of us were ever involved in a more engrossing case than what we've had here, and we've covered deaths and we've covered murders and vehicular homicides. We have good friends who killed, but this was the most troubling trial that I have ever been in, and God forbid I just don't want to have to go through another one. I just pray the feds come in, Leah Foley comes in, and they lock up the third-party culprits, all the dirty cops and DAs and state troopers and Canton cops. I hope there's a roundup, and I got my head on a swivel, and they better take their first shot and make it good.
Buddy, well said. And that's the final word right there. Murph, we'll be in touch. I love you so much. There goes Peter Murphy, retired after 30 years in the Canton Police Department as a sergeant in good standing. He withstood a lot. He withstood a lot of backlash from the fellow men in blue, and but he felt an injustice happening. And when you see someone who's obviously as good a person as that man is, you know, that something was wrong there. And this guy, when they say nobody hates a bad cop more than a good cop, I mean, there's no way that man doesn't know inside of him after 30 years in the Canton Police Department. He doesn't know inherently inside of him that something's, terribly amiss, that there's a cancer within. I mean, that's obvious. Someone like
Bill,
that doesn't make it up because they're disgruntled former employee or whatever someone wants to say.
Yeah, Bill, I also think that, knowing Peter a little and knowing he's a cop, what is he not telling? When he says, he knows obviously more than he's even lets on, right? That he can't say. That's what I always think too. Once
Yeah.
you're deep inside,
Yeah, for sure.